My brother's daughter sent me a graduation registry asking for a new car, a $10,000 vacation fund, and a luxury watch. I replied, "Not happening." She snapped, "Then don't show up." So I didn't. And what happened next had the whole family turn on her instead. I was already angry with Kayla before she ever sent the registry. That girl has been walking around like she's royalty since she was 15. Entitled, smug, and completely out of touch. The worst part, she knew exactly what she was doing. Kayla is my younger brother, Jason's daughter, 17, pretty, smart, and manipulative as hell. She's the golden child of the family, and everyone has been feeding that ego of hers since the day she was born. My parents cuddle her. Jason, who used to have a spine, just shrugs and calls it teenage confidence. And his wife, Erin, treats Kayla like she's her best friend, not her daughter. They let her talk to them like they're her assistants. But me, I was the one she expected to fund her lifestyle. What? Because I'm 32, single, no kids, and I do well financially? I work in tech consulting. I own my condo outright, and I like nice things. That was all Kayla needed to decide that I had an obligation to share the wealth. Over the past year alone, she'd hit me up for concert tickets, luxury skincare, limited edition sneakers, and a new iPhone. Once, she even asked me to cover a therapist she found on Instagram because Dad doesn't understand mental health stuff. I paid for it, hoping maybe it'd help. It didn't. She just used it to complain about how hard it was being surrounded by people who didn't get her. She always made these little digs, too. Like, "You're lucky, Annalicia. No husband, no kids, just freedom and extra money." As if my life was just some open vault for her to dip into. Then came the registry. It was a Thursday night. I was finishing up work emails when I got a message from her. No hi, no how are you, just a text that said, "Hey, Aunt Alicia, here's my graduation registry. Thought you'd want to be part of something special." I opened the link and I swear my jaw actually dropped. First item, a 2025 Mazda CX-70. Second, a $10,000 fund for her gap year in Europe. Third, a Cartier Boulogne blue watch retailing at just under $7,000. And it kept going. Balenciaga sneakers, a Hermes wallet, a Dyson Airwrap, a $2,500 spa retreat in Arizona. There was no laptop, no school supplies, no sheets or dorm room stuff. It wasn't a graduation registry. It was a wish list for a bored heiress. I stared at the screen in silence for a minute. Then I sent the only response that felt right. "Not happening, Kayla." She didn't even hesitate. "Then don't show up to my graduation." Just like that, dismissed. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That one sentence confirmed everything I already knew about her. She didn't see me as family. She saw me as a walking credit card with a pulse. I didn't go to her graduation. Didn't say anything to anyone. Let them find out the hard way. The night of the ceremony, my mom called me twice, then a text. "Why aren't you here? Kayla's asking about you." Funny. 10 minutes ago, she said I was uninvited. Now she's playing the victim. I didn't answer. The next day, Jason called. That was the moment I knew they weren't going to drop it. They wanted answers. And for the first time in years, I was ready to give them. They were about to find out who Kayla really was. Every ugly little secret, every cruel comment, every manipulative thing she'd done, and I was going to tell them everything in front of her. The registry was the spark, but the fire had been building for years. And this time, I wasn't going to let it burn me. I showed up to the Sunday family gathering like nothing had happened. It was at my parents' place, same as always. Burgers on the grill, lemonade in plastic pitchers, lawn chairs on the patio. Jason was already there with Erin. And of course, Kayla, still in full graduation glow, was lounging on the deck like she was the guest of honor at her own coronation. She didn't even look in my direction when I walked in. My mom gave me a tight hug and whispered, "I don't know what happened between you and Kayla, but please try to be civil." That was code for, "Don't ruin the day." Fine, I thought, but I wasn't here to cause a scene. I was here to end one. We went through the usual motions. Small talk. My dad asked about work. Erin told a long, pointless story about Kayla getting her nails done before graduation. Kayla rolled her eyes at every adult in a 10-foot radius. Then she pulled out her phone and started showing off photos of her registry haul, the gifts she did receive. A Chanel wallet from Erin, a shopping spree at Neiman Marcus from Jason, a weekend in Palm Springs from some family friend I barely know. My name came up when my mom asked, "So what did Alicia get you?" Kayla didn't miss a beat. Oh, she said she couldn't be bothered. I blinked. That was it. The moment. I set down my glass and said clearly enough for the whole table to hear, "No, I said I wasn't buying you a car, a $10,000 vacation, and a luxury watch, as you're 17, not a celebrity." Everyone went quiet. Even Aaron stopped mid-bite. Jason cleared his throat. "Okay, maybe we can talk about this later." But I was done waiting for later. I turned to my parents. "Do you know she asked me to pay for therapy because she said you two are emotionally dead? That she complains about you constantly?" I looked at Jason. "That she told me you and Aaron are too small-minded to understand her dreams." Jason turned to Kayla. "Is that true?" Kayla scoffed. "It's taken out of context." "Is it also out of context that she asked me to pay off her friend's $600 credit card debt as a favor? Or that she said she doesn't respect a single adult in this family?" Aaron jumped in. "Alicia, this isn't the time." "No, it's exactly the time." I stood up. "Because I've spent a year and a half being used, insulted, and manipulated by a teenager who thinks money grows on trees, and that the people around her are just ATMs with names. And I'm done." Kayla's face went pale. Jason just stared at her, and Aaron, for once, had nothing to say. Then my mom stood up. Not fast, not loud, just calm. She looked at Kayla and said, "Is all of that true?" Kayla didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. That's when the shift happened. My dad, who hadn't said a word all day, stood and told Kayla to hand over her phone. She refused. He took it anyway. Jason told her she'd lost access to the vacation fund. Aaron tried to argue, but he cut her off. "She just humiliated our entire family. You think that deserves a reward?" I didn't stick around long after that. The damage was done, and it wasn't mine anymore. As I walked out, Kayla stared at me like I had just wrecked her life. Maybe I had, or maybe I had just finally told the truth. Either way, for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. The next week was eerily quiet. No texts from Jason, no calls from Aaron, nothing from Kayla. Obviously, my mom sent a "hope you're okay" message, but that was it. I figured they were all licking their wounds and trying to regroup. I didn't care. I'd said what needed to be said, and I wasn't going to apologize for telling the truth, especially not to people who had been tiptoeing around that girl for years. But by Friday afternoon, the silence broke. Jason called. I didn't answer. He texted, "Can we talk? A lot's changed since Sunday." I called him back. His voice was calmer than I expected, but tired. He told me that after the cookout, Kayla went into full meltdown mode, screaming, crying, locking herself in her room, accusing everyone of betraying her. She said I'd humiliated her in front of the entire family and made her look like a greedy brat. Jason admitted that for the first time, he saw her without the filter, and it scared him. She'd been saying those things about them, about me, for months. Aaron had been defending her so blindly that she never saw how far gone Kayla had gotten. But the confrontation forced them to deal with the mess they'd created. "She's grounded," Jason said. "No phone, no trips, no spending. She's starting summer school next week, voluntarily." That part actually made me laugh. Voluntarily? My ass. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I should have stepped in a long time ago. I let her treat you like you owed her something. I'm sorry." That hit harder than I thought it would. Not because I needed the apology, but because I finally realized how badly he'd let her manipulate not just me, but him. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just a weak parent. And for the first time, he was trying not to be. I kept my distance after that. Kayla didn't reach out. I didn't expect her to. But my mom told me that something had shifted. Suddenly, she was doing chores, asking questions. Seemed normal, not polite, not warm, just less awful. But then Erin showed up at my place. She didn't call, didn't text, just knocked on my door one Saturday morning with a half-fake smile and a Starbucks cup in her hand like we were old friends catching up. I let her in because I was curious. She didn't waste time. "I think you overstepped," she said. "She's just a teenager. You didn't have to go nuclear in front of everyone." I asked her if she thought it was okay that Kayla lied about her own parents, insulted her grandparents, and demanded thousands of dollars from me like it was nothing. She didn't answer. She just sipped her drink and said, "You embarrassed her. That's what she's struggling with." I told her flat out that embarrassment might be the most valuable thing Kayla had gotten in years, because for once, someone told her no. For once, there were consequences. Erin didn't like that. She left without finishing her coffee, muttering something about family doesn't tear each other down. I didn't bother replying because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that silence, real silence, has more power than anything I could say. From that point on, Aaron stopped talking to me entirely. Jason, though, he kept calling. And Kayla still didn't speak to me, but something was coming. I could feel it. Not anger, not revenge, something else. Something I hadn't seen in her before. It was small, but it felt real. Respect. 3 quiet weeks passed after the blow up at my parents' house. I kept my distance, and to my surprise, they kept theirs. Jason checked in once or twice, mostly with short, polite calls about how he was working on things at home. Aaron stayed completely silent, not a word since the passive-aggressive Starbucks drop-in, and Kayla, not a peep. I assumed she was sulking, cut off from her usual luxuries, probably convincing herself she was the victim. I pictured her pacing her room, scheming up another way to guilt someone into paying for a $300 facial. The silence felt like a break. I didn't miss her, or so I thought. Then, on a random Thursday afternoon, I was heading out of my office downtown, juggling my laptop and a half-eaten protein bar when I saw someone sitting alone on a bench just outside the building. It was Kayla. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She was wearing a plain gray hoodie, no makeup, hair in a messy bun, and jeans that looked like they actually came from Target. No designer bag, no drama, just her looking small in a way I'd never seen before. She stood up when she saw me. I didn't say anything, just stared, waiting for the usual smugness, the rehearsed apology, the manipulation. Instead, she asked, "Can we talk?" I don't know why I said yes. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I just wanted to see how deep the damage had gone. We walked to a coffee shop a block away, sat down at a small table in the corner. She didn't even order anything. She started talking before I could say a word. "I was awful to you for a long time. I don't know why you didn't shut me out completely." I stayed quiet. I think I thought if people gave me stuff, it meant they loved me. That was how things worked in our house. If I cried loud enough, someone always fixed it. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. My dad's actually being a dad now. Took my phone, took my card. He made me enroll in summer school. Mom barely talks to me. She's mad I embarrassed her. I didn't say much. I just listened. It was the first time she wasn't trying to defend herself or shift blame. There was something different in her voice. Not just guilt, but fatigue, like she was finally feeling the weight of what she'd become. Then she said something I didn't expect. "You're the only one who ever told me no. You're the only one who made me think." That sentence landed harder than I expected. I didn't forgive her in that moment. I didn't offer a warm hug or some pep talk. I just nodded and said, "Okay." It wasn't a fresh start. It was the beginning. We left it at that. She thanked me sincerely and walked off down the block with her hands in her pockets. No dramatic ending, just human. A few days later, she texted me a photo. She was sitting at a table with a little boy, helping him with math homework. She wrote, "He's terrible at fractions, but really into dinosaurs. So now we count in raptors and triceratops." I didn't respond right away. I just stared at it. It wasn't much, but it wasn't fake. Then 2 weeks later, something hit me harder than all of that combined. I got an email from my old university. Subject line, recommendation request, Kayla Mitchell. I opened it, confused. She had listed me as a reference for a summer mentorship program. Voluntary, competitive, focused on behavioral science and leadership. Not fashion, not media, not social status. Attached to the application was her personal essay. I don't think she meant for me to see it, but somehow I did. It wasn't dramatic. It was raw, honest. She wrote about accountability, about being spoiled, about how real love doesn't always come in the form of gifts, but sometimes in someone refusing to give them. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. It was the first time in her life she'd taken responsibility without being cornered into it. But just as I started thinking maybe she'd actually turned a corner, I got a knock on my door. Aaron. No warning, no text, just standing on my porch like nothing had happened. And this time, she wasn't carrying coffee. There she was, Erin on my porch again, but this time with no fake smile, no Starbucks, no disguise, just standing there like she was entitled to my time, like I owed her something. I didn't even invite her in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She didn't like that. I could tell. She gave me a long look, then got straight to it. "I know what Kayla wrote in that application," she said. I didn't flinch. "Okay." She made it sound like she raised herself, like we neglected her and you came in to save the day. That's not what happened. I said nothing. She's rewriting everything to make herself sound like some reformed child prodigy who just needed one real adult in her life. That's insulting, and it's humiliating that she chose you to tell the story. That's when I realized what this was. This wasn't about Kayla's progress. It wasn't about protecting her. This was Erin's pride, wounded, bitter, losing control. She's finally improving, I said. And if you're worried about how that makes you look, maybe take a second and ask yourself why she didn't come to you when things got bad. She stiffened. You have no idea what it's like to raise a daughter in this world. And yet, I said, somehow your daughter came to me, not her own mother, to ask how to become a better person. That did it. Her face went cold. You've always wanted to prove you were better than me. Just because you make more money, don't have kids, get to live your life however you want. I laughed. Couldn't help it. You think this is about money? Erin, your daughter was spiraling. You defended her until she had no one left. This isn't about who's better. It's about who's awake. She stepped closer. Stay out of our family business. This isn't your child. Right, I said. She's yours, and you had 17 years to guide her. She found me after 3 weeks of silence. She stormed off. No goodbye, no closing argument. Just rage, confusion, and something close to fear. But that wasn't the end. That night, Jason called me. He sounded tense. I just want you to know I saw the essay. I told her to write it. Every word came from her. I told him Erin had come by. He sighed, like he'd been expecting it. She's not happy, but I told her this isn't about us. It's about Kayla. Then he added something I didn't expect. She's been asking to talk to your dad. She says she wants to apologize, like really apologize. And she did. The following Sunday, my dad called me and said Kayla came by alone, sat at the kitchen table and said sorry for how she talked to him, to my mom, how she took advantage of all of us, said she was embarrassed not just by what she did, but by how long she let it go on. My mom cried. My dad said he hadn't felt that proud of her in years. She was still rough around the edges, but it was happening. She was doing the work. The next week, she texted me again. I was a monster to you, and I don't expect us to be close now. But just so you know, I listen now. I actually listen. And for the first time ever, I believed her. But I didn't reply because the truth was, this wasn't about us being close anymore. I'd done what needed to be done, and I wasn't going to let her or her mother pull me back into their mess again. Still, something was coming, something I didn't expect. And it started with one message from Erin. It was early Monday morning when I got the message from Erin. Kayla says she wants to move in with you, says you're the only adult she trusts. I didn't reply right away. I had to reread it to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Kayla wanting to live with me. Apparently, she brought it up to Jason the week before, said she needed space, wanted a fresh start, somewhere she could focus. Erin hated the idea, but Jason didn't shut it down. He actually thought it might help her grow. I called him that night. Are you serious? I asked. He was. He said, she's not running away, she's trying. That part stuck with me. Later, I texted Kayla, why do you want to come here? Her reply was simple. Because I don't want to be that person anymore, and I think I can change if I'm not surrounded by people who treat me like I can't. 1 week later, she showed up at my door with a suitcase and a list of rules she'd written herself. No asking for money, no skipping responsibilities, no excuses. We weren't suddenly best friends. We kept it real, distant, but respectful. She got a part-time job, started cooking, budgeting, learning how to exist like a normal person. And gradually, something shifted. She stopped being that spoiled, sharp-tongued version of herself. The change didn't come all at once, but it came fully, quietly, genuinely. Erin still won't speak to me. Jason visits sometimes. My parents, though, they've welcomed her back. Kayla doesn't call herself reformed, but she listens now. She works. She owns her mistakes. Me, I don't need her to be perfect. I just needed her to stop expecting me to carry her.